My LinkedIn profile. You can have a look. Currently, I'm working on an application server that I called Ankbit. It's framework that pretendly makes it easy to develop client and server web applications. Um, so I'm 3 months ago I decided to switch to Clojure and Clojure script. It was not difficult to learn the language, but I found a lot of difficulties as usual with new environment development provider. The ecosystem is very huge. Which tools to choose, how to start creating project. Uh, this project is aimed to simplify all that, to make it easy to develop web applications. The idea of this framework started in 2010 currently, and I developed it in JavaScript at the time. And now, starting with ClojScript, I decided to be inspired with the JavaScript Ankbit project, and to write something with hot reload and with all the hot stuff we can have in ClojScript. It was not difficult to learn the language by itself. I have a lot of experience using Common Lisp dialects in general, and specifically Common Lisp. And I have also a lot of experience with Java. And the objective was to create an environment where we can develop client scripts and server scripts, language programs. So currently, what I did up to now in the last 3 months. So what we have in Ankbit, we have a managed state. We have a hot reload. It's the view is updated in real time as the code is changes. We have remote procedure calls with callbacks. We have software events on emit. So the components, they can declare events, and the users of the components can emit events, and the components will react to those events. It's possible to use reagent React components and include external scripts. And it's planned to do a version control system, Git, to allow many programmers cooperate in developing a project. Now we will see what I did till now. So this application, Ankbit Client Core, is written in Ankbit with Ankbit components, with the framework. How I did write before I reached this point, I was developing using Emacs. So all the code is here in Emacs, and I started the server. So the server is currently is running. So after a lot of development and testing, etc., once the engine is up and running, I started creating this application Ankbit Client Core. This is the code of the application. So I define components. I have app components, the view component. I have the add component, and some helper functions. As you can see, for example, for this application, the app component, what we use the tabs component and the view component. The tabs component, it's actually you give the content, It's like the options, the items of the tables, and each from CLG will show the add component with type CLG, and this is the menu here. That's what we have here. And so the tabs components will implement this menu, and when we click on each item, it will show the corresponding view of the item. Here the REPL and the console. So for example, here the console, we have when we modify a code, we will see the compilation, what's going on here. So if we make an error, for example, let's say you put X here and we save, in the console you will see that, you see, warning, use of undeclared var X at line 189, etc. So we go back and remove the error, and here we will see that compiling and reloading the Ankbit client core. Just to show that the components react in real time, so the hot reload. So if we put xclg, and we will see yes, this is I actually I disabled the hot reload for client core. I will tell you why in a minute. But if I remove this, for example, when I will put when true, so I enable the hot reload. So if I put X here, you will see that we will see X, you see xclg. I remove the X, and you see that so the application reloads in real time. So I put back, I disable the hot reload. So what happens when the code change? The application server will compile the code, and he will send re-render to the client. And when we call this function, and then he will render this application. And since I disabled it for a reason, I disabled the auto reload just for client core, and we will talk about this in a minute. So now, and here the application, it shows you the list of all the code in the source directory. So we have the closure script code, we have the server code, we have the REPL. So this the REPL here. See, it's a closure script. It's closure REPL. We have access to the server. In for example, I will put Ankbit client core, Ankbit.client.core namespace, and in client core namespace, if you look at here, the client core, what we have, for example, the function get file, save file, etc. So we can see here get file, and this is the function get file in the namespace Ankbit client core closure actually. Now an Ankbit actually, if we take an example, small example here, an Ankbit, every component has its own attributes, and then the content of the component. And the content of the component can be any the DOM HTML elements or other Ankbit components. And so for example, here we use hello component, and we pass this default attributes. So default attributes for the hello component, A, for example, A is 12, and here we pass a equal to a of Ankbit. So it will, so in hello, a will be equal to 175, and we can have functions, we have content. So this is the content of the hello. We pass content as a h6 element, hello world, and here h6 hello Ankbit. So if you want to see the view of this script, we double click on test one, and this is the view of this script. So as you can see, we have two hello, the first hello, the second hello. Both the hello components, they have a content a hello world. This is hello world. So we can change, for example, we remove one point exclamation point, and we save. So this when I modify the code, this shows that the script is modified. So when I save, look at here, we had two. When I save, it will have one. So see the view change when you save the code. And now we can, this is implemented in here. For example, if we look at hello, what it does, when we click, we say hello, so we don't have access to, we can look at developer tools. So you see hello said, hello said, when we click it say hello said a equal a attributes, etc. I'm sorry, I went back. I close this, I go back to the test, and this is basically how we implement if you look at for example how for example if you want to see how we use external scripts, for example this test4 what it does, it uses, for example, the editor Ankbit component. And if you look at the editor component, so the editor component is basically an ACE editor, and this is how we include external scripts for ACE. So you do scripts and you give a list of the scripts that you want to use. And another thing is, since the editor element here is not managed by Ankbit, so we have to do reload false. It means it will be managed by ACE. So this div element will be managed by ACE editor. So we have to put reload false to indicate to Ankbit to not manage this element. Because at re-render, if it was true, this by default is true, it will recreate the div element, and thus will remove the ACE editor, all the work done by the ACE editor. So this is how we can use non-managed and managed elements, because they are managed by external scripts. And something else, how we can use, for example, this folder. This folder is actually a React component. It's a React component, and we use reagent to use the React component. And this is how we do it. So here, as usual, we have an Ankbit component. We have our data. So on render, what it does, he will emit a DOM element event, and that will respond with the element of the folder tree. The folder tree is this element, and the event DOM element will give us back the DOM element of this. And then we use the reagent renderer. So we tell reagent to render folder tree in this element. and that's how. And we can, as you can see, this button add file, for example, the add file, what it does, it modifies the data, this data that we pass to the folder tree, and he will add a folder 1 and file 2. For example, if we add, as we can see, he added file 2 to folder 1. And if I press on add folder, he will add the folder to the data children. So as you can see, he added the folder 2 file 1, folder 2 file 1. This. So this shows how to use reagent in Ankbit, and the test 4 showed how to use external. The editor showed how to use external scripts, like for to use ACE, for example, ACE editor. Now, really, the engine is it's done, it's working, and this application showed how. So I implemented, for example, the REPL. If you look at the code of the REPL, the REPL, this one, he uses the editor. The editor has onExec command that will allow us to implement all the stuff here, to enter the commands, etc., and to send the instructions to the server and give us back the result. So now the REPL, we can see here, he uses a remote Ankbit component REPL, and this is implemented in the server. So if you look at the REPL, the Ankbit component REPL server code, he uses Ankbit server remote to define remote procedure calls. For example, here we define 3 remote procedure calls: REPL connect, REPL eval, and REPL print. And those 3 functions are used by the closure, the script side. So if we see on load, I get the editor using emit, and then I call REPL connect. REPL connect. The REPL connect, what it does, he will use the remote REPL connect function. So this is what we declare, REPL remote REPL, and that's how we call a function in the closure server program. We call the REPL connect function in the server, and this once he will call. If you look at here, the REPL connect, what it does, REPL connect. So the only parameter is a callback, and the Ankbit server will pass a session, the session of the user using this function, this remote procedure call, and the session can be used in any way. In the session, we have a lot of data, the session ID, for example. So the server part, he can know the requests are coming from which session, and he can save data and etc. So if it's not connected, he will do all this stuff, and then he call back to say that it's connected, true, it's connected, and false. So every callback can be reused many times. So if you pass here true, the callback will be disposed. So will be used only once. So and here we say callback true. So this is the answer, and this second parameter is for the Ankbit server, to letting him know that in this case it's false. So do not dispose of the callback function. It may be reused, and that callback function will be reused in the connect. You see the parameter connect here in session. So when you read, every time every time we read something from the REPL server, we use the callback to send the output of the REPL server, and it's not disposed. So this is, we will see a simpler example. For example, chat here. We'll see the chat example. For example, the chat. This is the chat. For example, I will create a topic, and I will send a message, hello. And as you can see here, now if we open another this, if we say foo, we use the same topic, and we send okay, for example. When I send okay, so foo okay, and here we receive okay. So and this, so the client, this client is making remote procedure calls to the server, to this one. When we create a topic, he will create the topic and subscribe to that topic automatically. The one who creates to the topic, we will subscribe to it. And if he's not the owner, he will subscribe to the topic. Like this one was not the owner of the topic, but when he put the topic here, he will subscribe to that topic. And if this one send how are you, for example, since the older one, this one is subscribed to the topic foo, I publish how are you. If we look this, we see how are you. Now the client, the server, the Ankbit chat core, the server part, he will he defines a few remote procedure calls like publish, def-r publish, delete topic, create topic. So it's very simple implementation I did, and just for example to show how to use remote procedure calls. And the publish, he will go through all the subscriptions and use the callback to send for that. And we can modify, for example, let's say we will add a star in the beginning of the message, and we save. So now if this one sends a message, I am fine, for example, I am fine, and we see we added the star. That's what we did add here. As you can see, so changing the server code or the client code has an immediate impact on the view on the application. So I remove again. We see first of all if this received. See, I am fine with the star, and now this one end of tests and end of tests without the star because we just removed it. So this is the actual state of the project. It seems working correctly. Maybe there is few bugs I have to, but it's working fine. So I'm not expecting all the users of this to use. Maybe some people do not like the ACE editor, so you can always use Emacs, and you open a browser and you do an arrangement yourself, and you either develop in Emacs or you develop using the client core application. So what remains to do actually is a version control system to make it possible for a team to cooperate on the project, and some helpers to deploy in production, to deploy once the project is done, to deploy it in production in Docker containers or something like that. And you see, so there is a lot of work in that. And this application. It's really to make it easy to develop and see in real time the impact of code modifications. So that's the purpose of this client core application. I hope you liked it, and please put any comments, any suggestions for improvements. And I now I can say that I know how to program in Clojure script, and I hope this framework. As you can see, I don't use lame, I don't use reagent, reframe, React. Everything is implemented in scratch from scratch. It was a lot of work, a lot of hard work, debugging, and until I reached this point. And I'm happy with the work done till now, but still there is a lot of things to do to convince people to use this framework once it's either in open source or commercialized. I don't know how it will go. It depends on many things. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.